It's Thursday. Welcome to Conscious Business Talks. This is Amber Mirza, host of Conscious Business Talks show, and I am happy to be here with you today. So, today was an awesome day. I was part of a grad celebration. There were things that were just looking like they were sliding down into the land of not that great. And the funniest thing, when you trust that all is going to go well, just focus on what you need to do one step at a time, things clear up almost magically. And that's where I am, running from a celebration to be with you. I was a little bit late because I decided to change what I was talking about and going with what actually felt like the right thing to talk about today. So let's talk about uncertainty. How often do you get to have and uh, the to be the lucky person in the middle of a decision who's trying to decide what all the different pieces, how they fit in, whether the information you're getting is complete, whether it's even whether every whether what the needing to talk. Hey, MJ, good to see you. Um, whether what you're being told is indeed the correct and the complete information to base your decision on, and what happens if you make the wrong decision, just, what are the consequences of it not being the way you need it to be. Uncertainty, right? When do we not have it? Especially when you are entering into deals, when you are negotiating, when you are making and forming, relationships around agreements and contracts. This happens all the time. We are in the middle of a decision. You're gathering all the information that you need in order to make the right decision, and then almost inevitably, something else enters the scene which makes you question the information you are so far trusting, and whether or not there is a hidden piece that could change the whole decision if it were true, right? So this is the position that I found myself in over the last week. And I remember Vicky and I were talking, and it was funny because I had to, when I left the conversation, I knew I had to go and make a decision. And up till then, it was a contract we were entering into. And up till then, just about all the checks and balances had been fine, except one major player had brought in what seemed like new information, and it was new information to us. But they had brought in new information that if it were indeed to go the same way with our contract and our agreement, that was not the kind of place we wanted to be in, right? So it would have totally changed the decision from okay, it's looking pretty good, let's go with it, to we don't want to do it, right? Huge difference from a yes to a hard no. And this is where I was like, oh, I don't know, I don't know whether to trust this or trust this, and how much weight to give both of those, and whether the weight that I was giving was correct. And if I went with it, then what was going to be the consequence and the cost to us to reverse it if it went sideways. So, and I know that a lot of times when I find myself in that situation, because you always do, when, like, as I said, when are we not entering into some sort of agreement or a contract or negotiation, deal making, whatever it is, we are entering into that exchange. And with that exchange, there is almost always uncertainty, incomplete information that we are basing our decision on. And you have to weigh in the cost of the decision, being wrong. Versus the cost of versus the reward of the decision being right. So Anyway, and I remember wrapping up the conversation with Vicky and saying, okay, I gotta go. And I gotta make a decision on something. And she said something that somebody else had said to me just prior, and something that I tend to lean on. Except when I just want somebody to give me the absolute crucial bit of information that would make it all so easy. So that was where I was finding myself. And I said to her, okay, I gotta go make that. And I don't really know what's the right thing, you know? And I remember her saying, well, go with your knowing, or go with what you know, right? And that is what I wanted to talk to you about today. So today, actually yesterday evening, that contract went into effect, and today was the first day that, you know, it is being they're taking possession of what that contract allows them to do. And this is because I decided to go with my knowing, take that leap of faith, and trust that all of what I had been feeling up till then, all the exchanges, the checks and balance, you know, the logical side of things, was getting supported by what my gut was saying too, right? And I confess, I do go with my gut, because I just know that when I feel connected, when things seem to be in that flow, it doesn't tend to go wrong. And if it does, so be it. I always find a way out anyways, right? We always do. So anyway, I went with it, and I thought, I'm going to give greater weight to that than to the experience of that party, crucial as it may be, because it doesn't have to repeat. There could be extenuating circumstances, right? And so today, as they took possession of that, I received, all the confirmations that were getting exchanged. It looks pretty solid, guys, I gotta say. So because it looks solid, I'm thinking, awesome. Right now, there are two parties who went together, believing, having faith in the other party holding up their end of things, right? And at least on my part, it was very much me going with what felt right. Granted that I also supported it. And initially, I had led with the logic to make sure that all of the processes are being followed. We're doing our checks. We're looking at all of the things that we would to make a very sound logical decision. But sometimes, even with logical decisions, there are things that get missed, because everything seems right on the surface, but there is just something that you can't put your finger on, and sometimes it tells you, don't do it. And sometimes, like this time, when you go into that space where, I hope you know what I'm talking about when I talk about that space, because that's the space that I want all of us conscious business leaders to get to know really well. It's that space when you stop, just go quiet, and you listen. You cut out the noise around you, and you listen. And you're not listening necessarily outside, you're listening inside. And it might sound totally weird, but that's this space where all of the stuff that has led you to where you are, and beyond, like more stuff than that, like it's just, I don't know. To me, it just feels like that space of connection. Hi, Larissa. Great to see you. And in that space of connection, whenever I drop into it, when I just stop and I cut out the noise and I drop into that space, I feel that connection, and I just breathe in to that feeling of knowing, right? And then the next step is to trust that knowing. And even if there may be a significant, part of logic making you say, caution, just don't do it because it doesn't fit, but the knowing says, it's okay, take that leap. I choose to go with the leap, and it hasn't served me wrong at all. And Larissa says, inner silence is new revolutionary moment. And you're absolutely right. That's what it feels like. This moment of connection that may lead to a change that you may not have stepped into had you not trusted that moment of quiet knowing, right? So um I wanted to, like, it may not have seemed the what I had oh, sorry. Larissa corrected it to movement. This is when the heart communicates to our conscious mind. That is when the heart communicates to our conscious mind. I do believe that is very true, because if I had gone completely with logic in that, I would have said no, because caution said, I have a pretty strong, position in this. I will not suffer if I let go of this party and I just wait for somebody else to make another proposal. That would be fine. But time was also of essence to me, and making the time when there are other pieces that are demanding my attention. I did not necessarily want to let go of something that looked pretty good just because I was afraid to follow it, right? Um, and that caution, I'm not saying that caution does not serve you at sometimes, because there are times when everything looks great, but this knowing again tells you something is missing. Even if you don't know what it is, don't proceed. And I listen to that as well. So sometimes that caution serves you well, but in this case it didn't feel that caution was there. It was more of a fear, right? It was more of a fear. What if I go wrong? Then it's going to put me in a position where I'd have to take myself out. It's going to get messy, and so on and so forth, right? And sure, it could, but it didn't feel that it would when I dropped into that place of knowing. So I went with that, and that's that led me to kind of say, I want to share this with you guys, because it's not a space we always give ourselves, right? Because we get busy, we take a look at it, we're like, okay, what's the analysis showing? What are the different checks and the procedures that we follow? What are they saying? What are all of the pieces that we usually rely on when we enter into a contract or an agreement? What are all of those things telling us, right? And you cannot bypass that, because that's the part that supports your business. That's why those analyses and those checks and those balances, all of those things exist for a reason. But there is this not so obvious part of it. Like, people call it sometimes a gut feeling, right? Sometimes we call it intuition. Sometimes we call it, oh yeah, there was just this a feeling I had. But a lot of the times we don't actually give ourselves that quiet, that space, and that trust that goes into us just taking a moment and dropping into that place of silence and going with the trust of that knowing that's bigger than us. It feels beyond us, but it also feels like a place of connection that connects us with just whatever it is that we need to know in that moment, to make the right decision, to reach for the right step, to at times to say the right thing, right? Whatever it is that brings you to beyond your comfort zone, almost always, because there is growth associated with it, right? When you realize that place of trust and taking that leap of faith, trusting that knowing actually pushed you into a new future that didn't exist before, in a way that you may not have come to had you leaned fully into logic. And perhaps in this case, in my case right now, for this example that I'm sharing with you, to almost a place of fear, where it was like, yeah, but what if this is right, and then it happens, and then that's going to be really bad, right? again, something that did not necessarily exist, but could have, because of all the uncertainty surrounding it, right? I didn't have all the pieces. I can't look into people's hearts and their minds and, what actually happened in a different situation with another party. I don't know, right? And I want to know, because I want to know all of the information that's going to go into this decision. But the cool thing is, I don't always have to know, because I can make space for that place of knowing, that place of quiet, that place of connection, that place of knowing, and take what I know to be the facts as per my checks, and then something that's more elusive, but not any less real, and use that to make my complete decision. Right? So I can just share with you that so far it looks pretty awesome, and I would have wasted more of my time that I actually am needed elsewhere to use, right, if I had just said no. This was a really quick thing. It just almost was like, wow, it's just moving at this rapid pace. The first people that I, went into, checked out, they wanted to have the same date that I needed to literally have this being ideal for me. That's the date that suited them. Like, everything was flowing, and then this big thing going, whoa, stop, maybe not. But had I said not, I don't know if I would have found somebody with that same ideal, everything matching, right? And I would have possibly said no to a party that is really good, just because I didn't use that knowing, right? So let me go to the comments and see what you're thinking. So Larissa says, outside noise disrupts such communication from heart to mind. That is why we all need to silence ourselves and listen inner life force. Ah, beautifully put. The inner life force. See, to me, that's when you're looking at numbers, when you're looking at processes that, are very logic and metric based. To me, it almost sounds a little like, okay, well, it's not visible, but it doesn't feel any less real, right? It exists. And the cool thing is that you can actually feel the rightness of it, if you know what I mean. And if you don't know what I mean, then find that space for yourself, because once you know it, it's going to be your extra magic factor that you can just bring in as your actual advantage in life and business. I gotta say that. And Larissa, wow, as anything else, silencing is a practice. It is a practice, and something that gets better as we continue, right? Trust is interconnected to personal responsibility. In our society, we've been offered not to take responsibility. That is true. Matthew and I were actually talking about freedom, right? Everybody wants freedom, whether we want freedom of choice, freedom of time, right? Freedom to live our life the way we want, freedom to exercise our right to be a certain way, right? To say certain things, whatever it is. But the funny thing is that when all we want are rights and no responsibilities, it doesn't actually work, right? To have freedom, you actually have to assume powerful responsibility in order to have, have and retain that freedom. And it tastes so much better. In my case, in my opinion, that freedom tastes so much better when you do take responsibility. And effortless flow is our ultimate longing to live and do business. And that is something we're going to talk about next week. The ultimate longing to live and prosper, right? Whether it's through business, whether it's through really fulfilling employment, whatever it is. But that effortless flow is indeed connecting with our desire, with our longing to live and prosper. And yeah, freedom to express our gifts. I love that, Larissa. Freedom to express our gifts. Because it actually still, like, it's a thing of wonder for me, right? As to how each of us, whether we realize it or not, have gifts, right? Can you imagine, like, when whether it's kids or adults, who doesn't like getting gifts, right? We sit and we love to tear into the packaging and we want to see what's in it, and we want to unwrap it, and we want to see whether it's a bag we're diving in. What's in that bag? Let me see. At least that's me. I don't think I'm the only one who loves that, because it's like, oh, what is that, right? And yet we have gifts and we leave them unwrapped because we don't believe in us. But that's a topic for another time, another show. Today, I wanted to really talk to you about that space of knowing, of connection, of trust, of silence, of quietness, and the power, the advantage that it brings to us, because it allows us to step into a higher and, in my opinion, a better place, a better foundation to exist from, right? So thank you for being here with me. Love having you here. I'll see you next Thursday, same time, 8:30 Eastern Time, 5:30 Pacific. That's 6:30 Mountain and 10:30 a.m. Brisbane time in Australia. Love you guys. Here is some music just for you.